What is up, Maryland basketball fans? Welcome into another Fear the Podcast. I'm Matt Moderno. I'm joined here today by Ryan Hammer. If you follow college basketball anywhere, you've seen Ryan's work. It's the most sort of creative stuff I think out there. And seriously, Ryan, I think what you do is awesome, and you make it sort of digestible and easy for anybody to pick up, but also learn something along the way. So I'm a big fan of what you do. And I don't know if everybody knows this, but you are a Terp. So I wanted to have you on and talk. There we go, baby. Talk a little Maryland basketball. So thanks for coming on.
For sure. I'm happy to be on again. I appreciate you having me. I appreciate the kind words and same to yourself. Anybody who's a Maryland basketball fan knows DMV hoops, they come to you. So
I appreciate that. Before we get into where we are, I think we maybe need to look a little bit back about, where we've been. And there's someone that'll listen to this and will comment like, hey, don't talk about Kevin Willard. We need to move on from this. It's over. But I want to do just like a little bit on just where that ended. And I guess just as that was going on, like, what were your thoughts in the moment of this kind of playing out during the Sweet 16?
yeah, it's annoying as a fan. And even like I try to be impartial and like things. I think I usually am. This year when Maryland was good, it was a little tougher at times, but it's easy to see like the truth in things. It was just like it was a shit show. It was a nightmare. And like whether they were going to beat Florida or not, they weren't going to win the game. Obviously, it doesn't really matter. That's not really the point of it. But just the way that he went about everything, it reminded me a lot of how he exited Seton Hall with a little bit of a bitter taste. And there's just better ways he could have gone. The truth was so clear, I think, is the real problem. Like the truth was clear to the fans, to the people, to the players, even before he told them. Like that was the real problem, is that he wouldn't address that head on. He could have easily said, like, I'm considering the Villanova. Yes, it's not a secret, but I am focused on trying to win the NCAA tournament right now, and I will take care of that next week. We all would have been like, great, that's fine.
Cool.
But
Yeah,
it's just a little bit of a bitter taste. So that's why Maryland fans are anti-Nova now. So
forever. I didn't like them anyway for taking some of the best DMV guys, but now I'm doubling down on that. Although he's not really getting the best DMV guys, so maybe that's a thing. And that's kind of where I want to go next. Like in the moment when this was happening, I was like, this is the worst. Like I was the most excited I've been about a season, and this dude crushed it. Now it feels like, like we rolled the grenade out of the room before it blew up, and now it's Nova's problem. You've got Jacoby Gillespie's dad coming out, and he told Jeff Erman here on InsideMDSports like about this directly. Just that Kevin Willard was intentionally misleading them and telling them that, he was only stirring up the situation to gain more resources for the program. He said yes over and over, told them that he was using it for leverage. All the way to that last game, they still thought, he would be back and they could potentially be back. And that's what I have like just a huge problem with. Like obviously for us as fans, it sucks, but dude, misleading players like that's gross. And like those people put a lot of trust in you. And then, just for future teams, like even if he had stayed at Maryland after all that, like that's a reputation that's out there. And then you've got, friend of the pod, Aton Thomas coming out and saying, essentially that Willard had a reputation already of not being truthful and honest and trustworthy. They tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, but they said that they, basically that reputation is earned for a reason in their experience. So now we see him not getting guys at Nova. Like this is going about as bad as it could. And I think, certain petty Maryland fans like myself are kind of loving it, to be honest.
yeah. And to your point, like fans are going to be fans. Like
Sure.
we all have media fans, whatever, non-players and non-inside personnel. They're going to be annoying. Whether you could be like, even Florida fans probably annoy Todd Golden right now for no reason, even though they won the national championship. Like there's always going to be issues with fans, like they're whatever, but there is good reason to it. And the players, to your point, let's say that is all true, which it has seemed like it is. That runs a reputation. Kevin Willard's a good coach. He has been doing this for a while, but with the way the landscape of the sport is right now, like that's going to ruin you. Like, not, maybe not ruin is extreme, but that is going to have an effect, especially in the short term. And like you said, like you're seeing guys, Jacoby, I think was always going to go to Tennessee and go back home, but Rodney not going there and a bunch of other guys not even considering it basically is a massive, massive piece of it. Even Derek Queen, like cracking jokes on Twitter, but like low key taking a couple jabs at him and stuff like that. Like that runs through the mouths and runs through conversation throughout players that are in high school right now, through guys that are in college and will be in the portal next season and stuff like that. And that affects the trust that players are going to have in you, which I guess in hindsight, it's great. Buzz is the exact opposite.
Exactly.
His players love him. They will die for him. They will go to war for him. So it's relieving, I guess, in a sense, but it really is crazy. And I think Kevin Willard knew. He says, I don't know what I'm doing. Classic quote. I'm never going to, that's literally saved in my phone as a meme to use whenever I want to now forever. And I will use it many times. But
There you go.
I genuinely believe that he knew exactly what he was doing. The fact that if he was lying, that's bad. That's not okay. So
He's just added freshman point guard Caden Lewis out of Sidwell Friends, who I really, really liked and was kind of bummed the Maryland staff didn't go, more all in on while, he was the
yeah.
Maryland coach. But it feels a little desperate to throw $3 million or $2 million or whatever at a freshman just to get somebody in there. So it just feels like we're out of the Kevin Willard business at the right time. We've moved on to Buzz Williams. Maybe just before we get to Buzz directly, but I think all fans kind of do this about their own program, but there's a lot of talk about like where Maryland is in the NCAA landscape as a job overall. Is it a top 20 job? Is it a top 25 job? Is it a top 10 job? You're more objective about this than I will ever be because I just can't. But like, where is Maryland as a job at this point? Like, we were kind of bummed we didn't get the biggest names, but are we in that kind of place?
Yeah, it's the potential is there. I think when I think of college basketball, like beyond the Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, Carolina, everybody, there are programs like Purdue, which I think Maryland should look at and try
Okay.
to resemble a little bit in terms of like not in the city, but like suburban, but not too far. And they have like a rich fan base that can create an unbelievable culture. I remember I'm sad to bring it up, the Michigan State game, but like
Yeah.
the environment in there was so unbelievable. I have never seen a Maryland basketball game like that in my entire life. It was so awesome. And Purdue fans, I remember, were responding to my stuff about it and saying, hey, like, this is what Maryland
Every
should be. Like,
game.
this is what Purdue is like. It feels
Yeah.
like that. And Maryland has the potential to be like that. They're in the same conference, obviously. There's a lot of similarities and stuff, but I think, and I think of college basketball, I think of places that aren't like major cities or markets per se a lot. Like there's a lot of potential for Maryland to be a top 10, 15 program and job in the sport. And there's history, there's culture, there's good hoops all around. DMV has great guys and great talent. Like there's no reason it shouldn't be a top 15 to 20 job. Like if I sat down and listed out a bunch of teams, like programs I could probably figure it out, I would say it's probably on that cusp of top 20. But it might not be. So it's teetering that line right now.
Yeah, I think like it's got a bigger swing than jobs in a similar thing. Like if we're high, going to the next guy and capitalizing on something when there's some momentum, like you can make it a top 15, top 10 job. Like,
Right.
but as a fan base, like we definitely go through these lulls where like, after the end of the Turgeon era, I was like, oh my God, like we're just kind of done for a while. So that's kind of where it's interesting where Buzz is coming in. Like we're coming in at a high point, but then the roller coaster kind of hit a low for a while there with the way that ended.
Yeah.
And he wasn't like the flashiest hire, but the more I think about it, the more I learn about the guy, the more excited I'm getting. I'm definitely trying to keep an open mind. So where were you with, the Buzz hire initially and how are you feeling about it now a couple weeks later?
Yeah, I think situationally it was great because late in the coaching carousel, late in the process, you get a guy of Buzz's quality and stature that like you have a high floor, you can feel safe, which is I think huge for especially the short term, and then obviously it affects long term being able to build, not take steps back. The team is going to be just as good as maybe not just as good as they were last year, but in terms of where they ranked in the country for most of the year, they will be just as good. Like look at what Texas A&M was last year. They're
Yeah,
probably going to
throwing
be very
speed.
similar to what Texas A&M was in terms of style and everything and quality because a lot of those guys came over and he replaced Wade with Miles and like stuff like that. So I think situationally it was good. We will never bash other DMV guys. Love Tony Skinn. I love Simpkins. There are guys that I like that I know were rumored.
Mhm.
I would rather not go that way right now because it would have been like a last ditch like let's just go there and like wing it and
Sure.
give him a chance.
Mhm.
So I like the hire situationally. I think short term it's going to be good. The team will still be good and top 25 and competitive. And I like Buzz for what it's worth. Like I said, he's a player's guy. His guys love him when they talk about him. They get emotional when they graduate. They get emotional when they think about not being their coach. Like that says a lot, especially in the current landscape of getting your guys to just follow you basically blindly, like into the
Mhm.
light. I think that
Just
says a
getting
lot.
guys to redshirt too. Like you
Yeah,
can't do that anymore, and they're willing to.
exactly. So I think that says a lot. And I think coaches connecting the players has been more important than ever right now. So I think that's awesome for the Terps program.
I want to pull on that thread just a little bit because you hear a lot of, oh, it's just about who gives somebody the biggest bag. But I really don't think that's the case. And when you don't have, the highest payroll or potential payroll like Maryland, you've got to be able to work those connections, work those relationships. We're hearing more about Buzz making calls to Baltimore coaches, to
Yeah.
local, DMV coaches, like trying to grow that network and show people that he can be a relationship builder and kind of prove to those like the DMV is a very protective area of their guys, and it's always shocking who knows who. And if Buzz can get in there and they see the same things we're seeing, like this dude will take care of our own, I think that's going to be huge for them long term. And maybe you do get a few friends and family discounts out of it along the way, which is, they're going to need that to compete at the highest levels, I think.
Yeah, and to your point, like NIL money is crazy, and there are guys who will just be like, whoever gives me the
Sure.
most money, I'm going there, and I get that it's gonna
Yeah.
happen, whatever.
Mhm.
But I think more often than not, like I have spoken to, I'll say like 6 or 7 different players in the last like month of the portal process
Mhm.
that just like talking to them, helping them through it. I'm not a reporter and I will never give away player information and what they're
Sure.
telling me, but I know that they're saying, hey, like this school's offering me 3 million with upwards of 3.5, 4, if whatever. But
Mhm.
like this school's offering me 2, and I really want to go there. Like at some point when they get
Yeah.
over the million and 2 million, like they know they're getting a lot of money, life changing cash, and then they're
Mhm.
gonna go wherever feels more comfortable. So I think
Sure.
Maryland has enough money, kind of, I guess, to compete on certain levels like that for certain guys. But then it's up to Buzz and up to the connection. And to your point, making those establishments with the roots of DMV hoops would be huge. And if anybody is going to do it, it would be a guy like Buzz. So that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think of the group he's brought in here so far? I mean, obviously, you mentioned the four guys coming over from A&M. They're probably going to play a similar style.
Yeah.
But how are you feeling about the group thus far?
Honestly, when Darius came in the other day, it was the first time I realized I was like looking at the roster and I'm like putting together a rotation in my head, and I was like,
Mm.
oh my god, they're going to be very good again.
Yeah,
Like
I think so too.
It'll be very, very, very different style. I
Yeah.
think Maryland fans will get frustrated at times, but they're also going to be so happy at times because, like, to me, like Maryland, the last decade of teams, there have been so many moments of just like lack of grit or just like things just fall apart in a moment. Like
Yeah.
that will not happen with, I'll call them the A&M Terps or whatever. Like that will not happen with this team. Like the guys that he brought in, Farrell Payne, Solomon Washington, like those guys from A&M, the forwards and front court guys are literal demons. Like demons on the glass. They work
Mhm.
so hard. He gets that out of everybody. Like they're going to play blisteringly tough defense. Like they're going to do everything they possibly can in every aspect of the game, which effort is never going to be below 100, which I think is amazing. And like I said, last year's team was great, but before that, most teams we can't say that
Yeah.
the effort was always like it's just like
Mhm.
mental lapses, and that's always really frustrating. Um, it can be frustrating. The A&M style that he had there can be frustrating when they're missing shots and things aren't going well. It ain't pretty, but I think that's going to be more successful in the Big Ten than it was in the SEC because the SEC
I
had
think so too.
so much high-powered, high-octane offense, where
Mhm.
the Big Ten can have that for sure, but they won't have that in most teams. It's more gritty and stuff like that, and this team will be built to win like that. And they also have depth, which obviously we had none of last year.
That's true. Yeah.
Um, but they will have depth. They're gonna like between add Elijah Saunders into the A&M front court that he brought over. Between Diggy Coy and Miles Rice and Darius Adams and Watts, like they're gonna have guys on the guard spot also. So it'll be a different Terps team, and I think it'll be refreshing.
I think there's something to be said for like guys want to play fast paced. They want to get a lot of threes up. Like they want to play, exciting offense. But guys don't want to play the opposite style of that. And sometimes when you're willing to slow it down a little and turn it into a bit of a rock fight and make it ugly, that's another way to go about it. And I think when you can kind of bring other teams down to your level sometimes and make them play your style, which is what Buzz is trying to do, I think that goes, a really long way here too. And just looking at this particular group of dudes so far, like I'm thinking there's a few guys here that have like potential to pop a little bit more than we've seen. Like Miles Rice had kind of a down year. You're bringing him in, and that's a guy I'm excited about. Watts, I think, has more. Like the more I get into these guys, I could just be putting like my Homer glasses on, but I think like he bought low on a couple dudes, and there's some potential to get better here too.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the system is more attractive than it looks on the surface to guys, like guards
Okay.
especially, where the front court
Yeah, because you
guys were
shoot a
his
lot.
guys.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the front court guys were his guys. They like he needs specific guys in the front court. Like it's kind of like Houston. Like
Yeah.
if you're not gonna buy into what he has, like
Sure.
you ain't gonna play at all, and it ain't
Mhm.
gonna work for you. But the guards, like Miles Rice, is a great example where like he was great his freshman year at Wazoo, or freshman, he technically his freshman year at
Yeah.
Wazoo, and like he sort of had a slightly down year. He wasn't terrible last year. I still think he's a good player. And like Buzz tells him, hey, you come here. If you lock in defensively and you play tough, like I know you can, because he's been like hot and cold with that. If
Sure.
you do that and you buy into that, you literally have a complete freedom on offense to shoot whenever you want and do whatever you want to an extent, obviously. But
Yeah. Sure.
like that's what he did with Wade Taylor. And Wade
Mhm.
had some streaky games at
Yeah.
A&M, but Wade also had some awesome games, and he was able to like flourish at times and stuff. I hope Miles' field goal percentage is higher than Wade Taylor's was last
Would be
year and
nice.
last 2
Yeah.
years. But nonetheless, it's an attractive system to a guy. Say, hey, you lock in defensively, and you can show that to scouts and whatever, and for your future game. But offensively, you can go like get yours and get into your rhythm. So
You brought up a couple seasons ago, especially like I think the team 2 years ago under Kevin Willard, where it was just they seemed kind of checked out early. Like a buddy and I went and see those early games in Nashville where they lost to Davidson and UAB, and the vibe was just very off from the start. And I think to your point, like Buzz teams don't seem to have that, and even Willard seems sort of checked out. You won't get that with Buzz. He's going to be super locked in, although maybe he was kind of less so at the end of Texas A&M, but it had run its course there. It seemed like. But yeah, just guys that like talked about this with Gravis, like guys that will kind of die on the court. Buzz guys seem like those kind of dudes, and whether you're shooting the highest 3-point percentage or not, I think there were so many games during the regular season, even this year, that they lost late because they sort of fell apart down the stretch a little bit or made some sloppy mistakes, and I don't see this team doing it. Their style is like kind of recession proof to a certain point. Like you're always going to be able to rebound and play defense and things like that. And maybe teams will get hot every once in a while and blow you out from three. But
yeah,
like the floor is pretty high no matter what. And I think they'll do the right things to close games too.
yeah, they might be sloppy at times. It might get a little frustrating a couple times at the end of the games, like because they get kind of reckless. Like ball can be
Mhm.
flying all over the place, but they're going to win games. They're going to win some dog fights, kind of like Michigan State does.
Mhm.
Kind of like other similar Big 10 teams have. They will win just absolute nasty, disgusting games, which I love a team that can do that personally. I know some people don't because they're like, I'd rather just be better quality, but
Mhm.
it's not that simple. So
Yeah. Yeah. Just win, baby. I'll watch whatever style if it ends
yeah.
up with a W at the end. Talking about those front court guys and sort of what he's looking for. I've watched a decent amount of Pharrell Payne. They're not the same player, but I think he's going to be a similar level player to Julian Reese. Like where some games he's a little up and down, but he's reliable around the basket. Like he's going to play defense. He's kind of switchable. He's maybe a little undersized, but he's a very good athlete, so I think he can make up for it. And we'll do some gritty stuff. And I thought Julian Reese was like a really underrated player here by the fan base collectively for the
Yeah.
last couple of years. And I think he'll look even better, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. But Pharrell Payne, I think, can take that jump from a 10-5 guy to a 13-7, 13-8 guy. And I think that would be huge for them.
Yeah, I definitely see the vision a little bit. Juju is like you said, he's bigger. Pharrell is definitely a little more mobile and versatile,
Bouncy.
athletic, especially vertically, where he can just like pop
Mhm.
big time. Where Julian couldn't. He was more of a true five at times and stuff. I do agree with you a little bit where Juju is kind of undervalued a little bit as a Maryland player. Like he just like was a little slower, not super flashy, and like very
Right.
methodical. But he was good, and like you can't bang that at all. It kind of reminds me of his sister. Like they play very similar styles,
Yeah.
so good and bad depending on who you ask. But he was a very good player, like both of them have been, and both of them are. Pharrell was going to be more of like a emphatic like warrior on the floor and like just do the dirty work. He'll have possessions where he'll pick up 3 offensive boards and then yam it home over somebody. Where like Juju was never going to be able to do that. So
It would have been a
there's the
jump hook.
caveat.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But Pharrell's touch is probably not as good as Juju's either. So there's give and take.
Yeah, I'm looking really forward to seeing him and a Miles Rice pick and roll, and him as like the roller lob threat. Like I think that'll
Yeah.
be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of Julian Reese, he is in the transfer portal despite having no eligibility left. As somebody who's looking at college basketball sort of from a macro sense here, do we see any world here where a guy like that ends up on a college basketball roster next year?
No, I don't think it's going to pass this year. If anything, it'll be next year. I think they put it into play, but it's so stupid. Like the whole idea of getting a fifth year for players, literally just for no reason, just because they feel like it, and like to keep more guys in college, more in not just basketball in every sport. But I just don't understand why they need to be doing this. It's so unnecessary. But I don't think it's going to happen this year. So all these, that's why Ian Shefflin's going to play football instead of playing basketball, because he knows he's not getting that fifth year. And like, I don't know, it's a whole mess of a world right now. So
I definitely wanted to ask that because I do see some like message board posters and things like that are asking like, oh my God, do you think Buzz is holding out a spot for Julian Reese to join the front court because we need a big? And it's like, no, I don't think that that's actually what's happening, but I wouldn't be mad at it if it could. But that'd be another good Twin Towers duo, I guess, here. But
yeah.
just uh, the one thing I think on the eligibility, like the 5 years to use 4 years essentially set up, like if someone needs a 6th year to use their 4 years of eligibility, I don't care. Like if you want to get rid of that limitation, fine. But I also don't need to see guys playing 8 years like on the court of college basketball either. Just move on at some point, make room for the next guys. And I think that's the exciting thing about college basketball is that infusion of new fresh blood every couple years. So I wouldn't want that to kind of go away.
Yeah, and I think with the transfer portal and NIL money being so fluid and how it is,
Yeah.
I think that's attractive enough for basketball, at least in
Mhm.
bigger sports. That's influential enough to keep guys around in college. Like it's been the
Yeah.
lowest early entrance into the drafts that we've seen
It's crazy.
like whatever, like 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. Only like a little over 100 guys, which like 2021 we had over 300 guys. Like it's crazy. So I think that's keeping guys around enough. You don't need to give another reason like that for again, it's a bigger thing. It's a macro thing, like you said, like all sports, but from a basketball lens and they care about basketball and football. That's what the NCAA cares about because they care about their money. So I understand. I just like it's unnecessary. There's already enough reason for guys to come back. So it's frustrating. And there's always going to be guys to your point. Like there's always going to be guys that feel older than they are, or they're spending a 6th or 7th year because like Ty and Grant Foster had like 2 years with his heart issue, and like
Exactly.
there's just random things that happen like that. But with all that and the JUCO thing of those years probably not counting anymore, like you don't need to add a 5th year. You're gonna have guys go play 2 years of JUCO and then 5 years of
Yeah.
D1 and like play literally 7 years. It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Plus a red shirt and be somehow 30-year-old college
I'm about
juniors.
to go back and play. I've never
I'm
played
with you.
college basketball, but I'm ready to play.
That's all right. I mean, they might need us at some point here if we got a little eligibility left. Uh, Obviously, the transfer portal is still moving here to some extent. Guys are figuring out where they're going, so rosters are not set. But just from what you're seeing so far, we talked about a little bit of Maryland probably being, around the top 25-ish range. But looking at the rest of the Big Ten collectively here, where do you think this team is gonna fit? Is this an upper third team? Is this a middle of the pack team? Like, how are you feeling about the Terps thus far?
Yeah, I think it'll be upper third, top third on the cusp of that in the Big Ten. There's still a lot to be had, obviously, and come out. Michigan and Michigan State and Purdue are all going to be good. UCLA is looking like they're going to be really good. Illinois has got the Balkan block and the Slavics. They look like they're going to be good. There's a lot of teams that are like it's very similar to the usual Big Ten. Like it's going to happen.
Mhm.
Oregon's going to be good also. So like that's already your top third right there basically. So it's going to
Yeah,
be tough to crack into that. But I think Maryland's in that conversation with the Illinois, Oregon, them. Like they're probably just behind that Purdue, Michigan, Michigan State for now at least. And UCLA, I guess I don't know. I might be missing a couple teams, but there's so many teams and there are a lot of good quality teams, and Maryland will be right in the mix and the mess of one game can move you up or down 4 spots the entire year. So
I was looking at this USC roster a little bit once Rodney signed, and I was like, oh, if they get Des Claude back, which doesn't seem like they're gonna, but for a minute there, I was like, oh, they might be a little
yeah,
tough, and now we've got to go out that way. I haven't really seen much from UCLA that scares me thus far, but
yeah,
Mick seems to make it work enough to be pesky every year too. So I think exactly what you said. You can count on some of the staples here, and then there's always 1 or 2 teams that seem to kind of show up and overachieve here a little
yeah.
bit. Um, so just circling back to Buzz here overall, he's been a little bit of a slow starter at most stops in year one, but it's also been pre-transfer portal. They always get a little better than when he took over. He's taken over most places at kind of a low point. I think the most sort of like one-to-one comparison is when he went to Marquette. They were already good the year before he got there, and they were like a little bit better in his first year, but at the very least, he kept the level up. And I think that's what you're banking on if you're Maryland's leadership of Buzz will keep us at the very least at the level we're at here. But you're already seeing Darius Adams. They're in on Sebastian Wilkins, another top 30-ish guy. We'll see where he ends up if he classifies back to 2025. Is this what Buzz can do, like with his biggest recruiting class ever, potentially, when he's at a basketball school and has maybe more resources than he did somewhere that didn't care about basketball as much?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I have a short answer, and yeah, I definitely think so. I think to your point, like he's a floor guy, where not in just his style, but how he recruits and things like that. Like he is always gonna have a high floor that might not always mean a high ceiling, but again, back to what we were talking about, like for the situation that Terps program was in for their hiring
Mhm.
process and the timing, it's a great hire, and keeping the floor high is massive right now because long term you want to elevate the program to be a top 10, top 15 program in the country, and getting back to that and contending for national titles. It has, even if it's not Buzz in 5 years as the coach or 4 years, whatever, like him keeping the floor up will continue a gradual growth instead of taking a big step back and then trying
Yeah.
to figure it out. So
He also has that shorter shelf life of, 5, 6 years seems to be the max range here. Does that change if he's doing well at a place like this? And hey, I'm at the best job I've been at. I'm at a basketball place. Like if it's rolling, do we see him stay longer than that? Or is he just gonna be a seat warmer guy for, the Tony Skins, the Dwayne Simpkins, or whoever may be a little bit more ready to take over a job like that in 4, 5,
yeah,
6 years?
yeah, I don't know. I feel my brain goes both ways. Because like, yeah, he's never shown indication that he's going to stay around for a decade anywhere. So I'm like, okay, he'll probably be gone at some point. He was also a last minute hire, so that even adds more to that. Like, okay, he's here, he'll see what he can do, and then he'll probably be gone. But I think to your point, he hasn't had like that crazy success at his
Yep.
schools yet. So if he does, that could make him be like, I finally figured it out. Like, this is the place where the recipe and all my experience is coming to a perfect success and the perfect tea and timing and stuff. So I think that's probably where I go more. But if he doesn't have that success, if he goes to Sweet 16, out the first round, Elite Eight, and just in the tournament, and similar things to what we've kind of seen with A&M and the clear ceiling, then
Mhm.
yeah, he probably will leave again in 5 or 6 years. So,
Any names that you would be interested in longer term of at least just keeping an eye on and seeing how they develop in their own coaching careers the next couple of years?
honestly, I'll say no because all the mid major, I love hiring from mid major levels and like guys that are proven it. Like A&M getting Bucky, I think that's awesome.
Same.
Iowa getting Ben McCollum, I think that's awesome. I think guys like Patino got Xavier, Bryce Drew will get a power job at some point. Like those guys will have gone through their cycle and get their jobs elsewhere. Eric Olin was a guy I really like. Like I don't know if he's going to go from San Diego to New Mexico to all the way to Maryland, but there are guys like that I think are who we should keep our eyes on. And I think this year and next year we'll understand who those guys are really going to be because Buzz is going to be here unless something goes crazy
Yeah,
wrong.
4
He'll be
years at a
here,
minimum.
right?
Yeah.
He'll be here for 3-4 years minimum. So I think this season and next year probably is when you start to identify a couple of candidates like that where I would imagine the Bryce Drews and Olins are going to be at power level by then. So.
That makes a lot of sense. Just on that, not Terps related, but any, mid-major teams you're looking at here already or teams you're excited about. Doesn't have to be a mid-major of just I'm seeing what a team's doing here, and this is going to be cool to follow throughout the year here. Like everybody has like a their team where they're like, I have no ties to this team, but it's a team I'm going to like to watch throughout the year. Anybody like that standing out so far?
Yeah, I'm not sure yet. I'll take the summer to decide, but
There
I'm
you
excited. I'm a Will Wade guy. He's my
go. Nice.
dog. The whole staff. We're tight.
Okay.
I'll put biases aside. I do like NC State and what they're going to be doing. I think their roster on paper is not going to be as good as majority of the top of the ACC, but they're
Mhm.
going to compete and they're going to win better than their quality says on paper because that's what Will Wade does. UNLV is one that not like my team. I just like am keen to see what they're going to do with Josh Pastner. Like they
Okay.
brought in a load of transfers that are really high quality out of nowhere, and I was like, I'm interested. I'm intrigued. And I am a Bennett Sturts guy and a Ben McCollum guy through and through. I think Iowa's going to be good, similar to what I said with NC State, where on paper people will push them aside a little bit in the Big Ten. But if they finish like top 5 in the Big Ten, would not be surprised at all, because I think Sturts could legitimately win. Maybe he won't win Big Ten Player of the Year with Braden in there, but he could easily win Big Ten Player of the Year. I would not be shocked at all.
Yeah, I think if you put a good point guard in front of Ben McCollum, he's going to figure out a way to win a lot of basketball games. So bringing a good point guard with you is a pretty good way to go about that. Yeah, the UNLV one is really interesting to me. Like Matt Norlander reporting that like Pastner told him he wanted that job like 4 months ago, and then him getting that job, like seems like he's got a plan in place. So that'll be cool to follow.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Ryan, any other Terps thoughts here? Any Terps takes that you got in the chamber here you want to get out as we close this thing up?
Not much. I think it's awesome that you had Grievous on, and I love that you guys are tight. I love that conversation too. So I'll shout out to you and all the work you do and stuff. And I love Grievous also being a part of everything. And it's good that there's guys like that. It's not very common, I feel like, for Maryland basketball specifically, and really Maryland like athletics, honestly, like Diggs and like football wise, there's a couple of guys, but I just don't feel like that aura and vibe that a lot of other big schools and big programs have, where I was in Ames, Iowa, and like when Tyrese Halliburton, he wants to come back every year. He goes back twice a year, once a year. It's the biggest thing ever. Like, yeah, Scott Van Pelt's at Maryland, but like I want Grievous to do what he's doing. I want Melo Trimble to like be more vocal, and Anthony Cowan like to come back and just like I want those guys to be around and stuff like that. And I think you see that at a lot of other programs. So Grievous, if you're listening, I know he probably is because he's a fan of yours too. Get the guys to do it. Get the alums to get involved.
I think that's the trouble too, is like there are games where there are dudes in the seats and they literally do not even put them up on the board during, which is a huge failure from Maryland. And you mentioned Halliburton, like we don't have a that level guy, but we can't get Aaron Wiggins back here for like a weekend sometime when he's playing the Wizards, like just something.
Get Jalen Smith here. Jalen Smith's he's not going to be not in the playoffs, like whatever. Right. Like I don't know, whatever it is. Like it's
a short drive. Yeah, we could.
Kevin Huerter, Alex Len. I don't care who it is. When I was at the Michigan State game, I think Deonte Banks was there, and he was sitting front row. Like that was it. It was like him and Scott Van Pelt, and I was like, this is what we got right now for the biggest game in Maryland basketball, like recent history. Come on.
Yeah, we got to do a better job at that, and no matter what here. And I hope that's the biggest thing that Buzz Williams gets out of this. It doesn't sound like Gravis is going to end up on the staff from some reporting that's out there, but just being involved, like they could do a better job of prioritizing people like that have the energy and the juice to want to he's got that Pied Piper effect, like you said. Like if he's back into it, his teammates will get back into it, all that stuff. So hopefully they're listening to that.
Me and you are going to have to get on our recruiting tails, I think. I'll have to hit some DMs on Instagram to guys and be like, yo,
let's do it.
Gotta get you back to CP. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, we can find a game and do the alumni get together here maybe.
Exactly.
Ryan, I mentioned this up front. I think people, even if they're not super familiar with you, like they have seen a video of yours, like you're blowing up TikTok and Instagram and YouTube shorts. And they're always very cool to see. I thought the one about the Mike Bibby hire was particularly interesting because I watched that and I was like, hey man, like I think this is a great idea for a school no one pays attention to at least. How many people didn't know Sacramento State was a Division I basketball team before they heard Shaq and Mike Bibby were involved? Like so thanks for highlighting stuff like that too.
Of course. Doing my best to be unique and try to transcend traditional hoops media, especially in college and stuff. Because I love what you do also, a lot of other people, just because like traditional college basketball media is very traditional in its essence, but I don't think that should be the case. I don't think people want that to be the case anymore. So I think being unique and doing different things is definitely cool. And the Mike Bibby stuff, it's interesting. That's my first reaction. I was like, I don't know what to think. So it's just cool stuff that is very unique, especially to other sports. So stuff like that, I think is cool.
Where can people find more of that kind of content if they're looking for it?
For sure. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Ryan Hammer. You search me, you'll find me. And then hopefully we'll have some nice little show or something in the future of some sort, and I'll plug that eventually. So
awesome. All right. Yeah. Ryan Hammer 09 on socials. Go find that, everybody. Ryan, like I said, man, I'm a big fan. I appreciate you doing this. Awesome that you're a Terp. Nice to have more Terps in college basketball media as well. So keep up the great work, and thanks for making time. And talk to you soon, hopefully.
Of course, you too, Matt.
All right, everybody, if you know the drill at this point, please hit that subscribe button for us. Go back and watch the Gravis episode if you're watching this one and didn't catch that out. I want to blow that one up for him, and hopefully we can get our guy back on here lots of times as well. Rate, review, subscribe, all that important stuff. And remember to fear the podcast.